let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. So let me tell you what I did this past weekend. You were in Tulum, is that right?
Tulum, Mexico. Yes, I was. You went to go to...
So I went and watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
While I was gone?
Yeah, while you were gone. And me and Aliki watched the movie, and then that night we flew out to Disney so that we could, like, ride the ride, because we heard it was really good.
You had so much... Oh, the Guardians ride?
Mm-hmm.
You had so much... That's crazy. That means you have a good review of the movie, right? You were like, this movie's so fun that I want to go experience it.
Yeah, I can't distinguish between the movie and the coaster. They're just, like, blended in my mind, so, like...
I didn't know there was a Guardians ride, actually. That's new news to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was pretty good. I think... Still, Rise of the Resistance to me is the best ride, but...
That's the Star Wars one, right?
Yeah. It's not the most fun ride. It depends on how you, like, judge a ride.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But for me, the Rise of Resistance, like, blew me away.
Yeah.
When I got off of it, I was like, I can't believe I just experienced... Like, how did we do this at that scale?
Yeah.
Is what I thought.
Right.
But the Guardians of the Galaxy was fun. But yeah, dude, Guardians of the Galaxy, man, what did you think of the movie?
I thought... Well, this is what the movie did for me, I think. So... Aside from all the like the little fine details of the movie, like the story and stuff that were all good, what James Gunn has done that I didn't pick up on for some reason, I think I see a lot of comments like this on Instagram and IMDb and stuff that people are talking about the movie. I'm like, what he's done is like, I think he's like made people realize that like, hey, I made the best trilogy in Marvel. I did it, and like
that's a big claim.
People like
y'all gonna flame him in the comments?
Y'all can flame him if you want, but I think people agree. Like there's not a single person I've heard, even in the comment section on social media, is that they're all like, "This movie was awesome." And people, it's kind of a sleeper. Like people have always, no one's ever had a comment about Guardians. No one's ever been like, "Oh, this is a bad movie."
Yeah.
But no one's ever been like, "Hey, my favorite Marvel movies are the Guardians movies." But when you really put them up against any trilogy, I know people would have something to say about old stuff like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like the Guardians movies are so consistent, and there's in the story arc of each character. Like they took a group of like the Fantastic Four type people, which type set where it's like you have a lot of people to kind of deal with, and usually those movies are bad. Yeah. They took that same idea of like trying to develop characters from all different backgrounds, all different personalities, and they did it flawlessly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In this movie, they went over like Rocket Raccoon, and like it's almost like it was planned expertly. It's almost like he had this idea from the very beginning. I think James Gunn has that sauce.
James Gunn has it. And not only does he have the sauce, like he has our sense of humor, which is like one of my favorite parts of watching those movies. Anything James Gunn from now on I'm watching, because he does like these extreme things, like a few moments that I thought were funny in the movie that I know you would think were funny.
Yeah.
There was this point where Gamora was like, oh yeah, spoilers coming up. But you know, Gamora was like very trigger happy or whatever. She kept like killing people. And they bust into the control room, and like one of the women in the control room is like, please don't shoot. Like puts her hands up. She shoots her in the leg, and she's like, ah! You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Like dude. I was like, yo, this is so crazy. And then
just like the over the top, like, please don't shoot, and then shoot, and it's like the results of that are so bad. Yeah,
it's so dire. But you know what's crazy though is when they do that, like you have that crazy reaction, but then it's never addressed again. You had the same thing at the end where they brought all the animals through the portal, and there was like this like triumphant moment, and then like one of the monkeys that came through the portal just started ripping off this woman's face.
It just never addressed again.
They never addressed it. Like for her. Like, think about how triumphant it is for everybody else. They, you know, Rocket Raccoon,
right,
like, liberated all the animals from the thing. And for her, she was like, why are we bringing all the animals in here? And then a monkey just jumped on her face and ripped it off.
And another thing
like, that's just her life now.
That was what it was. Another thing was that they had that freaking Drax spoke the language of that new people the whole time. And they were, like, struggling with that the whole time. And then all of a sudden he speaks their language and starts helping. They're like, you speak the language? He goes, why did you never tell us? He goes, you never asked. And it's like, bro, like, like he just always does. James
wait. What's that part where that like horridly decrepit creature comes out?
Oh my gosh, bro. Me and Bryce.
She goes, huh?
Bro, me and Bryce died on that part. She got scared and he goes, thank you. Like walks out. Greg, did you see that movie yet? What? Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
It was.
Did you like that part? That part was so funny, dude. No. Well, no, the decrepit creature. The little. She goes, because she was like, ah, and then she was like, Oh no, something behind you was really scary. It wasn't you. You look totally normal. But yeah, dude. I'll say another thing that I liked about the movie outside of the humor was, my complaint about the superhero movies in general is that, the art style and the feel of them is different, or is so similar.
Yeah, right.
This movie was different to me. It had, you had that really cool fight scene where it's like the one shot, and then you had that that part where they were like on the surface of that fleshy planet, and they were all in the different colors, and they were just jumping, and it was like, I like the difference in cinematography and the difference of feel and tone, and they deal with some really deep concepts like the raccoon and his friends, being tortured Rocket. So I feel like it got dark. It was funny. It had basically everything, but it didn't feel like your standard superhero movie.
Let me tell you something crazy.
Tell me.
So there's a Marvel theory that God in the Marvel universe hasn't been established yet, but they have a theory of what it's going to be or who it's going to be, right? So you have like the Celestials, which are like in the Eternals, which are like these huge monsters. Then you have like the Timekeepers, which end up being a facade. Then you have like this people always. And then you have the like Thor and all those people, which are mortal, so they're not technically gods. They're not spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, right? Well, in She-Hulk, spoiler alert, in She-Hulk they had a scene where it breaks the fourth wall because that show's all about that, and she ends up going to Marvel Studios to try to ask why they're not writing her story right, and they come across this huge robot whose name is Kevin Feige, which is the head of Marvel Studios. The robot's name is, and he's like figured out the perfect algorithm to like making the best superhero movies that are palpable by all kids and adults. And like she's like, well, can you switch mine up a little bit? So he ends up changing it. But when Rocket Raccoon goes in Guardians 3, when he goes into that world where it's like, little did you know this story was yours the whole time. He's talking to his old friends.
Yeah.
They're thinking that there's a God there, and they think that God is actually just the real life Kevin Feige, head of Marvel Studios.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a crazy theory. But,
yo, that's insane, actually.
I know.
Wild.
It's funny.
That's wild,
But
dude.
no, yeah, that movie, dude. Also, I would say this, that like, he's writing these, like, bro, James Gunn is writing this stuff so fast. Like, he's also doing
they're doing the DC stuff now, right?
The DC stuff, and the ability to make a villain as good. Can we talk about how good the villain was in Guardians 3?
Yo, yeah, he was for real. Yo, I actually thought you really would like the villain because of how like disrespectful he was.
He was mad disrespectful.
He was mad, like super disrespectful.
Yeah, he was just like dismissing the creatures so easily.
Yeah.
He was like, I can't remember what he said. Oh, bro, also the cool concept of them like evolving creatures thousands of years in just a matter of seconds. And they became sentient, and then they just destroyed them.
Also, yeah. And also, it looked so painful.
Yeah,
like little rocket.
Crazy movie. James Gunn has the sauce, and can't wait to see what he does with DC. Even though DC's kind of like lost my. Honestly, dude, DC and Marvel, I'm kind of getting bored of them. I know you feel that way.
Yeah, I do.
But Guardians was a fresh take,
especially DC. I mean, Marvel too, but man. Dude, after I watched Aquaman, the thing with Aquaman was like, I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but it was really like visually stimulating, but the story was just so ass.
Yeah, baby, need top 5 when I'm done going mental. Yeah, I'm locked in, you can peep my credential, man, the lab all winter, all summer. Yeah, I went dumb, now I'm about to go dumb and throwing way more numbers on the board on mama.